Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we elevate marketing leaders inside and out. I'm your host, Veronica Rami, master marketer, executive leader, and mentor to ambitious marketing leaders wanting to advance their careers. Each episode is filled with genuine, unscripted conversations with some of the world's top marketing experts, accomplished leaders, and industry trailblazers representing brands, both large and small. Our goal with this podcast and everything we do is to help you master your role, nurture your team, prioritize your well-being, and evolve into an industry-leading Rainmaker. This is the Rainmaker Podcast. In this episode, I get to share with you an eclectic marketing leader who has worked in some of the most diverse industries: food, wine, cannabis, real estate software, PR agency, and more. Our guest, Alex Howe, VP of Marketing at Funnel, embodies the truest essence of a Rainmaker. It was an absolute joy nerding out with him on all of these topics and then some. We get into the future of B2B marketing, the dynamic between marketing and sales teams, scratching the itch of entrepreneurship, and then going back to work for an organization. And then at the very end, we debate what's harder: parenthood, marriage, or entrepreneurship. I loved recording this with Alex, and I know that you're going to love listening in on our conversation. Without further ado, let's make it rain with Alex Howe. Hey, Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Okay, so you are a very diverse marketer. Like when I look at your LinkedIn and I see all the things that you've done, I mean, you've been food, wine, cannabis, software, leasing, what? Real estate? Like, can you take me back to the beginning? How did you even end up in marketing? How did you know marketing was going to be this, like, now, what, decade plus more kind of relationship that you found yourself in your career?
When I was a kid, I was obsessed with commercials and jingles.
Oh.
I could tell you every single toy, but not even toy. I mean, they stuck with me. I had my own ideas for what ads could be.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty consistent through most of my life. I don't think I knew what I wanted to do in marketing specifically because I just had this idea everything was ads.
Sure.
And I can draw decently, but beyond that, I wasn't a true artist. So I think what got in my way early on was this idea that I had to be a graphic designer.
Sure.
And I just didn't have that skill set. So it took me a while to figure out it's more about the messaging behind what you're trying to push in those ads.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I knew I was going to do business. Like I knew I was going to major in business or have a life in business because my parents are entrepreneurs. And so like I just have this belief that entrepreneurs birth other business type of people and entrepreneurs. But I didn't know that I was going to end up in marketing either until a really crappy like finance internship experience. I'm like, this is terrible. I feel like I don't have too much personality for this. And then I remember sitting in like my consumer behavior class in college where we learned about like, Disney plays slow music in the morning so that people walk leisurely, but then it plays fast music in the afternoon when it's like, near capacity, like all of these different things and the messaging and these brilliant ad campaigns that like change society and the world. And yeah, that's when I like really became obsessed with the ethical use of like helping people make decisions for themselves ethically is also the definition of marketing to me.
I like that definition.
You've always been fascinated with ads. So when you watch the Super Bowl, you were equally into the game and also the ads. That's how I am too. But take me back to like baby marketer Alex. When you first started out, what did you aspire to become? Did you even have an idea, an inkling now that you were kind of like exercising the craft, so to speak?
My job right out of college was at a communications agency. So we did a lot of work in the political realm, in the nonprofit space. I was trying to make the world a better place. And I was working with folks who had really small budgets, were oftentimes fairly bureaucratic behind the scenes in terms of what decisions and who had to be involved and what we did and the positioning. But there were a number of folks willing to take some big risks. And so I saw the power in what a headline in a newspaper could generate, what a small TV ad buy could do about an issue about the Iraq war at the time, about environmental concerns. And that really moved me. I just saw that while we all believe it's hard to move people, there are, as long as you can get through to people in the right way, you can actually have an impact on how they look at something, how they purchase something, how they feel about pretty big issues in a short period of time. So that left a very strong impression on me that I could actually change people's behavior. So I thought that was a really cool thing. And then again, that was less marketing. We did some advertising, limited newspapers, TVs, but it was more how to talk about things, how to have kind of a guerrilla PR strategy to make news and then get people talking about the issue
Sure.
and then hope that you're going to actually sway them a bit.
My immediate thought was like the power of a good idea, like the ice bucket challenge or whatever. And like, look what it did for basically a nonprofit to almost like obliterate the disease they were fighting for. But like, it's the power of word of mouth. It's the power of a great message, a great hook, a great idea. Like it is addicting. That's what I'm saying. Like I love marketing because it's just so addicting. But agency life is a beast, right? And it's funny because I was just on a call with a prospective rainmaker, a marketing leader who is like, she's 27. She's kind of in this crux of her career where she's like super hungry and itchy for more. And she's like carved out a pretty decent name in a coaching space, but she's like, but I'm kind of done with working for coaches and like these personalities.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, have you ever tried agency life? Like, have you ever had a stop in your career where you worked at an agency where you had like a little bit of a taste of the rainbow, where you didn't have just one client that you had a market for, but you got to become like a little mini business expert for all of them? She's like, I didn't even consider that. What would you say is like some of the best perks of working or having a stint in an agency in your marketing career versus like cons that you've personally experienced?
I think you just said it, the mini business expert in
Mhm.
so many different industries, companies. That exposure
Yeah.
forces you to really quickly not only learn about that business, but then figure out, okay, there's a lot I could talk about. There's a lot of things they care about. What am I going to be laser focused on to show them an impact
Yeah.
so that I can basically keep the business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, agencies are as good as whatever last week you did well for them. And people love people. There's no marriages. People love to date.
Yeah.
They will jump around. They
Oh,
will leave
so
you just as
true.
fast as you met them. So you constantly have to show
Value.
an impact, a result, something that impresses them, because you have these weekly check-in calls and they're kind of like, I'm giving you my hour of time, which I know I hired you for, but if you don't wow me by the end of that hour and show me something that either I was impressed by or I didn't know was coming, I don't know that I want to keep you on next week, next month. So it forces you to just not only iterate, but like execute consistently, and to be able to like distill down in very short order what matters, what
Mm-hmm.
is going to cause someone to make a decision differently, or to
Mm-hmm.
buy your product, or to think about your issue or organization differently.
Well, and then also, I think in addition to the human capital that I felt like I gained by becoming a little business expert for all these different variety of clients. I mean, I was in my early 20s when I hopped into agency life. And so I learned very quickly how to work with radically different personalities, like type A versus soft and meek versus that. Like you have to become a very effective communicator very quickly to survive as an account manager or any kind of client facing role in agency life, because in one call you're being chewed out and you have to handle it diplomatically. 15 minutes later you're on another call where she's like telling you her business is about to go under and you're like, I'm so like I want to save you. And
Yeah.
like just the variety of personalities that I had to work with on the client side, and then turn around and then try to advocate for the clients with all the other account managers to the fulfillment team that's behind the scenes that doesn't get on phone calls because they definitely shouldn't be on phone calls. Like I had to learn very quickly how to persuade, communicate effectively to like have any chance of like articulating anything to anyone. Would you say the same?
That's exactly right. I think there's probably examples of agencies or account leads
Yeah.
who do a tremendous job and they're maybe terrible at the interaction with the other human, but those are few and far between, right? You kind of need both.
Yeah.
They have to like you because they want to jump on the call with you to hear
That's
this
right.
great update you're going to give them. And then they want to be impressed when they actually hang up. So it does force both of those skill sets to come quickly. And the other thing I was thinking when you were talking about the just different kinds of personalities, it also forces you, and it comes only with time and having a few successes under your belt, to recognize, hey, this client seems happy right now, but they're really not giving me the thing that I need to be helpful for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to have the confidence to say, listen, I looked up on your LinkedIn, I saw this thing on your website from a while back, and I recognize you actually do have a data scientist in-house. Can I talk to that person? Can we get them on a call? It'd be great
Ooh.
to pull this thing out of them. And hey, you're great. I love you, but I
But
I
get out of
need
my
more
way.
resources. I need more resources.
Okay, so we have a stint with agency life. I love this journey in your career. Keep taking me down this marketing career path for you. What happens next?
A lot of agency experience. There was a specific one in Boston where I got to touch a lot of really early stage companies who
Mm-hmm.
were all over. They were B2C, they were B2B, they were B2B2C. And I really got the entrepreneurial bug there.
Okay.
I think I saw how folks were prioritizing building their teams, building products differently, trying to differentiate. Obviously, that's why they brought in an agency to help them get that out into the market. But it made me want to do my own thing. So from there, I moved to Los Angeles, where I still am, and I started my first company, which was a consulting firm, basically doing what I had been doing, offering marketing
Sure.
services.
That's what I did too. Yep.
And it was specifically focused on the cannabis space,
Okay.
which was at the time relatively new in the mainstream side of things, at
Mm-hmm.
least in California. And the full legalization for adult use was imminent. So we saw there was a real opportunity there.
Yeah.
And very few folks had paid attention to that industry. So I think it was really easy to be a big fish in a small pond
Sure.
quickly because
Yeah.
there just was not true marketing veteran experience out there. It was just, hey, I know a guy and they can put on a cool event or they made really cool t-shirts. And that wasn't what that industry needed. It still isn't really what that industry needs, but jumped into that, consulted for a number of years, grew that business, and then wanted to do my own, not just professional services piece, but I really wanted to get my hands on something.
Mm-hmm.
So a co-founder and I started the first cannabis-infused wine company, raised money for it, brought that to market, did all kinds of out-of-the-box things, learned a ton of lessons. I mean, I was figuring out how to childproof a wine bottle, which no one had ever done before because it's wine. So why would you need, I mean, they shouldn't be for kids anyway. Learned everything about that, which was fascinating to me. The whole, just on a quick tangent, childproofing, you would think just means make sure kids can't get into it.
Yeah.
It actually means you both have to ensure kids can't get into it, but also that elderly folks can access it.
Oh,
So it has to
oh,
be
uh-huh.
tactile enough that they can get in, but preventative enough that kids, even after they've messed with it, can't get into. So anyway, that was a whole experience. Took a while, but eventually got it to a place where we got approval. And there's lots of federal and local state
Oh, yeah.
regulations we had to deal with between the kind of alcohol concerns folks had. By the way, we took the alcohol out just so people aren't concerned there. And then put cannabis in, which had its own challenges. There are very few at the time. Certainly there were a lot of folks talking about it, but nobody really made it taste good, etc.
Sure.
So
We're going to take a detour. We need to stop right here on this entrepreneurship journey because number one, you'll laugh at this. So one of the clients I had in my previous agency experience was a plant trimmer equipment company, but obviously they were trimming, not lavender. But legally, we couldn't say what they were actually, what everybody was buying them for. So I had to and it was at the height of like link building and SEO and all like keyword stuffing the page as hard as you could without, making sure that people can still read it. And so I'd have to do all this Google keyword research of plant trimmers, just all these different things to say, to not be able to say the thing that I really wanted to say because of the legislation, I guess, or the rules. So I remember that was one of my fun accounts because it was just, I had turned myself into a pretzel as a marketer to figure it out. But it is
right, but
fun.
that's the exciting
It is
part.
fun.
That's the like, hey, I know I can make a good ad with this,
Yep.
but here's a new nuance.
Yep.
You
Yep.
can't say the
You
word
can't say
that you
this.
need to say.
Yep, exactly right. Okay, because we just barely talked about this before we pushed record. So I also jumped in. I mean, clearly I'm not an entrepreneur now. I have my own podcast and leadership development program, but I've had stints of entrepreneurship even before that. So when I left corporate, I was like, I started my own marketing agency because I know how to do this. I know how to render services. And then I went back to working for somebody, and then I jumped back in. I've had my little bouts as well. So I'm really curious from your perspective because I feel like a lot of marketers get to a place in their career where they're like, okay, I obviously have the capacity and the ability to make other people millions of dollars. At some point, maybe I should make myself millions of dollars with the same skill. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about you, because you go from safety, right? The safety net to unsafe, right? You go from secure to radically just you're on your own doing hard things. I am always amazed at how little marketing I actually do in my job, in my own business, because being an entrepreneur, owning your own company, there's so much that you don't know that has nothing to do with the skill that gave you the confidence to do something in the first place. So what was your experience jumping into entrepreneurship for the first time?
Everything you said and more, right? I mean, you are figuring things out that no one trains you on how to go raise $1 million for a company, right? Nobody gives you the course, or maybe they do, or they probably should, of how to deal with child proofing concerns and regulatory issues, right? Like, it's definitely wearing a lot of hats, and it's a lot of sales meets marketing.
Yeah.
Every entrepreneur, you're selling the concept if you're going out and raising money and it's not bootstrapped. You're selling the opportunity to hopefully a co-founder or other people that you can recruit fairly quickly to buy into this dream you have. You've got to convince them to go leave their safety net in many cases.
Yes.
And then obviously you're trying to get word out in the right way and quickly enough to actually show there's some product market fit, to show there's something there, and get random members of the public or your specific ICP to care about that thing. So it is very like sales hat meets marketing meets be so thick-skinned and resilient, because you're going to get turned down. You're going to get things that you didn't count on. You're going to lose hope. You're going to have people who disappoint you, right? Like, you just have to be...
You're going to have your heart broken weekly.
You got to be so convinced that that is the thing for you, because you're going to come up against a ton of challenges. And if you're not in it for a long time, like, you shouldn't have started.
So me and my husband have this debate on a regular basis. Okay, what's the hardest thing? Parenthood, marriage, or entrepreneurship? It's like all three of those things are the most humbling ventures that you can possibly undertake. Like being married to somebody for a really long time, like trying to fall back in love with that same person who's now radically different 14 years later, being a parent to humans with no manual. They just like let you go in the car seat, in the car to the house. You're like, how, like, why? And then obviously entrepreneurship, I'm constantly reminded on a daily basis of like how much I don't know. Like I'm always confronted with how little I know about the world being a business owner. Cause like I didn't go to law school. Why I got to deal with this, So it is one of the most humbling experiences at all times, just doing this. It's also deeply gratifying. I have a question for you. I just had this debate with other entrepreneurs in my program. I'm not saying that all CEOs are narcissists. Don't come for me. But I am saying that I think in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to have narcissistic qualities or attributes, because if you don't believe in yourself and you're not your number one fan, then you can't really be a visionary CEO who's willing to be a pioneer and a maverick. At least that's you tell me, what do you think? What do you think that you learned about yourself pretty quickly doing this?
You have to be so convinced that you are on the right path. It's not that the path can't change. It's not that it can't divert. And right, that is the reality. There are very few companies that started out and ended up very successfully as what they initially started out as. Like
100%. Yeah.
Uber and all these companies started as very different business models than what they eventually became. One of my favorite quotes is strong convictions loosely held, right? Like you have to be convinced of some things, but willing to bend to someone with a better idea, pivot to a market reality, accept that part of your product is worthless, focus on the part that is resonating. I think that's a big part of it, but it has to start with a pretty strong personality. You don't see a lot of CEOs who are meek and sit back and let other people make the decisions, because then no decisions really get made, right? Like there has to be some ability to stick with something and see it out until it's time to change.
Hey, Rainmakers, true or false? Becoming a top marketing leader is all about climbing that corporate ladder. False. Such crap advice for modern marketers. The true key to unlocking your career potential in today's landscape, learning how to promote yourself versus waiting for someone else's validation. Introducing the new Rainmaker Roadmap, your free comprehensive guide to becoming a marketing powerhouse. Master your role, nurture your team, prioritize your well-being, and evolve into the marketing visionary you are meant to be. Grab your roadmap today by going to rainmakerroadmap.com or grab the link in the show notes. Now back to today's episode. It's funny because in the rooms that I find myself in, there's definitely some commonality. So like there's a lot of Enneagram 8s, which are like the challenger personality. Or I've taken this poll. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how it like came to my awareness. 95% of the CEOs I was in the room with were all oldest children. I was like, what? So like Emmy included. So I was like, yeah, I'm the oldest too. Yeah, see, like, so like when you're the guinea pig in your home as a child, and there was no older sibling to carve a path for you, and you had to learn everything the hard way. Like it's just something that we've just been doing since we were born. I don't know whether it's a outspoken strength or a quiet strength. There is an absolute conviction and passion in self and belief in idea and pursuit, whether it's coming because you feel like you are called upon or you like or whatever. But yeah, it's just a different animal. Okay, but I went back. So I had the bout. I got the itch out. I ran an agency. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? This is a terrible decision. I got lured back in. I got an incredible job opportunity. I went back into the marketplace working for somebody. Here you are yet again. Now you're the vice president, right, of marketing for Funnel. So like, tell me, how did you go back in? Why did you go, to the degree that you feel comfortable disclosing? But I would love to understand more how you find yourself back in a team environment that's not your own.
Yeah, I think I had that itch scratched. I learned a lot. I would do it again. I just needed to get that part or parts. There were a few companies I started. And even after that, I put myself on a couple of platforms where I was basically advising, putting a serious amount of my time into some really zany,
Mm-hmm.
out there startup crazy ideas, because I don't think that's ever going to go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to help, I want to be associated with and help some big groundbreaking technologies and new concepts change the world. But that being said, it's a lot. And until I don't think I ever had that conviction that I was referring to earlier that I needed to
Mm-hmm.
see any of those things through myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I similarly had the best opportunity I've ever had in my life come along with the job that I currently have. But even the path to get there within the company wasn't exactly straight. I started on the sales side because I think sales and entrepreneurship is very closely aligned, as I mentioned. And
Agreed.
I wanted to try something new that was just that. I had always sold services, other people's companies
Mm-hmm.
for them, and I wanted to try it myself. The situation was there was a real need at that company, at my current company, Funnel, for marketing leadership. We were at a really interesting time where the company had completely repositioned itself, actually
Mm-hmm.
changed the name, had gone from selling a pretty limited product in one market to let's build an enterprise broad platform and then tack on some other really complex products on top of that. And I just fell right into that. I mean, that was where the need was, where my interest was. I guess I wasn't as good at the sales thing as I thought I would be. I'm very appreciative of the short time I had on the sales side
Sure.
because it gave me a real priority list for what I focus on now in marketing, right? And what I've seen in my little world that's pretty specific, it's the multifamily space.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is true of anywhere. People want to buy when they want to buy. They want access to product tours and demos and resources that they don't want to have to necessarily go through a salesperson. So I've seen marketing take a much bigger role
Interesting.
in the buying journey than there
Mm-hmm.
ever has been
Mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
So we are now really not just in the kind of pre-sales top of funnel motion. We're helping the folks that are still kind of putting their toe in the water, want to learn a little bit more, maybe had talked to us a few years ago, are considering coming back. It's so much of that is still in the marketing realm, I think, and becoming more and more so that
Mm-hmm.
we are limiting the moments the salespeople come in for just really high touch, super valuable things that those prospective customers can't get on the website.
Yeah.
But we're still trying to put as much of it out there as we can. We want to give and provide a ton of value there so that they come in with high intent to buy, educated,
Yeah.
and if they're not a good fit for us and vice versa, they've disqualified themselves. Like
They've already self-elected out.
yeah. let's not waste anyone's time here.
Okay, so I'm a marketer. I've been a marketer for 15 plus years. I've been very loyal to this boyfriend, and yet I married a sales guy. So, like, he knows that we're in a committed relationship. It's fine. So, we talk all the time in our personal lives, like the dynamic and oftentimes tension, sometimes, right, between marketing personnel, marketing teams, and like sales reps. You know, they're divas. It's interesting that you bring this up because the last couple of years, I have really been inside of like the online industry. We look at our marketing as direct to sales marketing. Like you see a cold ad, you click on the ad, you watch a webinar, and then you're offered a thing on within 45 minutes, and then you buy the $2,000 course. So like no salesperson required at all. Like we don't like there's wildly successful companies that have no sales personnel at all. Now, software companies, corporate America, like you have an infrastructure where it has a marketing department that is distinguished and separate than the sales team. So hearing you talk about how you guys are really looking at marketing to do more of the heavy lifting for sales is fascinating to me because I also know your CEO, Tyler Christiansen, was one of the most successful salespeople I've ever worked with. So take me into the room. Like, where was this decision born? How did you get to this place? Because it's genius, but like it's I think a paradigm shift.
I wish I could take credit for it. I mean, this is born out of what buyers are showing us they want. We all are consumers.
Yes.
Even if you are a B2B sale is you buying the thing you want to buy with someone else's credit card. There is no difference.
I love that.
And you are, as we want reviews. We want to see what other people think about it. We want to listen to a podcast. We want to read stuff on their website. I don't want to have to go through a sales rep who's going to put me on some kind of a nurture cadence and then follow up with me if I'm not ready to talk to him that day, interrupt my dinner. I want to do it when I want to do it. And so we've tried to accommodate that. I mean, that shift happened. It was already happening, as everybody likes to reference. COVID sped that up
100%.
Tremendously because you couldn't go and talk to somebody directly. You had to do most of your research online. So people just became accustomed to that. And we are trying to get ahead of it. I mean, I think we're even 6 months behind where buyers want folks to be, but total transparency, putting your pricing on the website, that's almost unheard of in my space. We do that today.
Yeah.
We want full product tours. I want to get to a place where, not to scare the sales reps, but I want to get to a place where if I'm a prospective customer, I could go online and have a total choose your own adventure guided by a recorded live person that can accommodate so many different paths, pains, personas, and be able to do that on my own time. Like, I don't want to necessarily have to wait for a demo where the rep is going to take me through what they think I care about. So Tyler, to your point, incredible salesperson.
He is, yeah.
I think but he's also like a real marketer. He gets it. He was, in fact, the guy who picked our color. He picked a lot of the pivot that the company has now found great success in. So it's really helpful to work for and with CEOs and a C-suite that gets marketing.
They appreciate the value of marketing.
Yes. And as someone who's willing to take risks, like I am definitely on the let's take a risk, let's stand out. Because if you're not memorable, if you're not likable, how many other vendors is that person talking to right now? You're not the only person they're talking. You're not the only person they're dating. You need to be memorable, stand out, make them feel good, leave a good feeling from the start to when they leave, and be helpful and not annoying, not gate all your content, not force them to click out and fill out forms to get into things. Like, make it really easy for them.
Gosh, oh my gosh, my brain's like literally exploding. Like, first of all, as a fellow marketer, to like nerd out with you on this stuff is like so gratifying. So like, sorry, podcast listeners, I'm geeking out as well. Like, this is like deeply rewarding for me. But you're right, because I remember studying, like, there's nothing worse than buying a car to me. Like, I hate it with a passion. Why? Because I had to deal with the sales guys and women, men and women. No offense, but like, I hate it. I hate pulling up my current vehicle, parking, and they're just like staring at me through the window. I'm like, no, I hate that experience. So then CarMax comes out and like blows the industry because they're like, all right, we don't do like commissions. Everything's just set. So you know that you're not getting swindled. You're like, oh yeah, like it put back positive equity in this relationship. And now you have like Carvana. And you have all these different sites where you're like, I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just buy a car off the internet and screw it. Like, you're exactly right. What's so interesting is, again, the whole COVID point is also really valid too. Like, this was already happening and then it got accelerated because we physically couldn't be in the presence of other human beings without like 6 feet and like 5 masks on, right? So like it forced a behavior that everybody very readily adopted. That's very clear, which is interesting to see you guys as a software company doing this, because yeah, like my husband also works for a software company and they're on demos all day and he watches tapes of his sales guys, and if it gets complicated they have to bring in the sales engineer, or the chief technology officer. It gets really complicated, and then they're just and to your point, the sales, well, and actually you didn't say this, we said it before we push record, like the sales cycle is just unnecessarily lengthened. So have you guys seen a drastic difference in your sales cycle with you being so damn transparent with all of the decision, like all of the material and information that somebody would need to make a decision is now disclosed? There's no person to hold it back. Do you find that your sales cycle has shortened, and if so, by how much? Like, I'm curious what the net effect has been.
It absolutely has shortened. I mean, I wish I had more specific metrics to tell you, but
Great case study.
it's a relatively new muscle and effort to put everything online, have product tour demos. I mean, that's only been up for a couple of months. The pricing went up in the last few weeks.
Oh yeah.
But we are very quickly just trying to get ahead of that. You were talking about the car buying experience, and all those companies were super disruptive. Some of them have fared better than others. I think Tesla, and Tyler talks about this analogy a lot, it's not just that they sell electric cars and that was what was unique. Electric cars have been around for 100 years. It's that they made the buying experience so seamless and they went direct to consumers. You go online, it's the same price no matter where you live. You order it exactly how you want it. You don't go into a dealership and have to talk to other folks. Everything is there. You have forums, you have communities, you can learn about it. They put a ton of product videos out. There's CEOs involved, so you feel good about it, right? It was what the audio industry needed. And I think what we're already seeing the other car makers shift toward, Ford, GM, they're all forcing their dealerships to go through training for their electric vehicle fleet. But I could see it being the same for the gas-powered engines as long as they last, just to cut out a little bit of the extra middleman piece that nobody wants. No one's like, I want to be a middleman when I grow up. I want to slow this thing down and cost the end consumer a little bit more because I'm involved and I need a piece. So the more you can cut that out, or at least make people feel like it's getting cut out, the better, for sure.
To your point about making someone feel, I feel emboldened, empowered. I'm in control, damn it. Like, I'm in control when I get to make these choices without having, like, to your point, a gatekeeper of any kind or a middleman of any kind. So like, I remember Tesla, I would go into the Boca Raton Mall, town center, like, and there was the Tesla store in the bloody mall. And like, it wasn't even because they were salespeople. It almost like had the feeling of like the Geek Squad, or it had the feeling of like, you know, the Apple Bar or whatever that you go to, because they just were like these nerds. But you could like, okay, I want the red color and this, and you got to like customize, almost like I was customizing a house. Like, it was wild. And you're right, it was, and I felt empowered by it. I felt in control of my destiny, and that is the power of really, really intentional branding and marketing, not just messaging, but marketing experience. And I think some of the best marketers are experienced based marketers to me.
Oh yeah, the experiential piece is huge for us.
Yeah.
I think those opportunities that you do get in person that are fewer and far between these days, even post-COVID, if you can, again, be memorable, stand out, do it differently, make them feel good about it, make them laugh, give them something to take home that they're not just going to throw in the trash, that's how you stand out. And we were talking about narcissistic qualities and entrepreneurs earlier. I think everyone, right? Like, we are, as humans, as animals, we have to think about ourselves at a certain point above everything else. And the more you can cater to that part of every individual person and make them feel super heard and speak to their pain point and reference something that they dealt with and make it feel like you've done it for them. Like, we're all narcissists, right? We all want to feel like it's about us and something speaks to them.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely the hero of my story. I wake up and I'm the main character of this narrative for sure. That's really funny. Okay, I could talk to you literally for hours. This is just what happens when marketers get together. We can nerd out for hours. One thing that I do like to do at the end of the podcast is I like to have the guest flip the script, because I just asked you a whole bunch of questions that you had no preparation for. You didn't know what I was going to ask. And so if you would like to ask me a question that is unscripted and I'm not prepared to answer, then I give you the control, the power to do so, and we'll end with that.
Okay. I mean, you said you and your husband talk about what's the hardest between marriage, parenting, and entrepreneurship. What's your answer and what's his? And do you guys get in fights about it?
Okay, for me, Veronica, parenting is the hardest. If I was being truly honest, I think I'm a badass entrepreneur. I'm a killer entrepreneur. I'm resourceful. I get it done. I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, that's always the challenge, the gamification of entrepreneurship, which can be highly addicting. But like, I like to play the game. I like to compete in the arena. Like, I like high pressure situations. So I think I'm really good at that. I also would like to think now, if you ask me in the darker periods of my marriage, I probably would say that one, because we've had I mean, when you've been with somebody for 14 years, like, and we got married at 22. So like, we were babies. You grow up with somebody. But right now, me and him, we're like solid. So by process of elimination, parenting. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. And my husband and I are strong personalities. And then we bred. And now we have even stronger beings. And I swear they're trying to take me down. It has been the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, because I've had to really, really work on trying to separate like who they are is not a reflection of me, meaning like their achievements aren't because I was a great mother, and their failures aren't because I'm a shit mother either. Like, it's actually, they're their own person, and my job isn't to change them, and I can't parent them from a place of fear, like, oh my gosh, if I don't do the right thing, I only have until they're 18. If not, they're going to be that narcissistic prick at work, and I don't want my kid to be the narcissistic prick at work, or what. Like, there's so much deprogramming that I've had to do to like show up and like be the kind of parent I'd like to be. It's been so hard. It's
I
been
love
so
that.
hard, but I love them with all my heart. They are the hardest thing I have ever done.
But that's, I mean, the example you just gave of don't take their achievements as a pat on the back,
No,
don't take their failures as something you didn't do enough of, right? Like, that is so hard for anyone who cares, right? And it comes from, I think, those of us who are or want to be good parents,
yeah,
right? It makes sense that you would feel that way naturally, and it is definitely a struggle to deprogram that out. And
every day.
I don't think I'm there yet, but I only have one 3-year-old thus far.
It's
So
coming.
yeah, I know it's coming, because we're still in the, like, he's still so young that I haven't had to deal with
Yeah.
achievements or failures for
No,
the most part.
when they enter, kindergarten and up, it's yeah, and
It gets
they're
real.
different developmental stages as well. Like, they push back, they ask why. You're like, why are you asking me why? You used to be so cute when you didn't ask why. So it comes, but there's these moments where, like, how do I put it this way? Like, every single day, I feel like I say sorry as a mom. I can't say that as a wife or as a boss or as an entrepreneur, but as a mother, I feel like every day there's something that I feel sorry for, that I wasn't patient enough. That's probably the part about parenting that is the most humbling, is that I am constantly reminded of like just the gap sometimes of what I wish I was like, or how I wish I had responded versus how I did. And then the beautiful thing about children is every day they forgive you. It's like literally the most beautiful cyclical circle of life. Like, every morning, doesn't matter how crap I was the day before, how much I yelled or lost my patience or was, literally the next morning, I am their favorite person when they open their eyes. It's just, I could cry. It's just really gratifying. So like, just for anybody who's not a parent yet, don't live like that. There are some beautiful moments too.
It is so true. It's just that reset. You have a
Every
big
time.
fight the night before when they go to bed, and you're like, oh, they're going to be so
Yeah.
mad at me in the morning. They
Yeah.
just jump.
Yeah.
Big hug.
Yeah.
It's the
It's
best.
the best. And that's the beauty of little kids. And I don't have teenagers yet. I'll report back when I get there. Okay, Alex, thank you so freaking much
Thank
for
you.
being on the Rainmaker podcast. You have been a joy. I have loved getting to know you, and I can't wait for everybody to hear this episode. So thank you so much. We'll tell everybody where they can find you on LinkedIn. We'll drop all your notes. Is there any final things that you wish to impart on another aspiring Rainmaker who is looking to advance their career?
I think find companies that are doing interesting things, probably easier said than done. Find leadership in those companies that believe in marketing and are willing to give you the freedom to try new things out, and hire and find really smart people around you because you can't do it all yourself. Focus on your team, focus on good camaraderie with the folks you work with and are you're going to have to rely on. So, just do all those things and you'll be fine.
And then you'll be great, said Alex. Well, thank you very much, Alex, for joining us on today's Rainmaker Podcast. Thank you for joining us on today's Rainmaker Podcast. Marketers help other marketers. So if there's a marketer in your life who could really use a new perspective in a way that helps them advance their career, please pass this episode forward, share, leave us a review. Everything helps as we embark on helping as many marketers elevate themselves inside and out. You can always visit veronicarami.com for today's show notes, additional links to some free resources and tools for you to help you advance your career. You can always connect with us on social media at @VRami if you want more behind the scenes or a way for us to connect personally. Until next time, my friends, make it rain.